Hi guys, Ben here. Keith is in Los Angeles this week, and so it's just little old me, but I am so thrilled about our guest this week. It is Maureen Gosling, who was Les Blank's longtime collaborator, sound recordist, editor, co-filmmaker. She came to Austin to present a new film that she has made, and I got the chance to walk and talk with her and pick her brain about making some of the most influential documentaries that I have ever seen. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode of Doc Walks as much as I enjoyed recording it.
On your left.
You're listening to Doc Walks with Ben and Keith.
Marker. I just did a marker with Maureen Gosling. I'm thrilled that you are giving us some time today to go on a doc walk. Thank you so much for being here. Why don't you tell our listeners what you're doing here in Austin?
Well, my new film is called The 9 Lives of Barbara Dane, and it's about a jazz blues folk singer, social justice activist named Barbara Dane, who just passed away a year ago at the age of 97. And it's going to be screening at the Austin Film Society tonight.
Yeah, I'm going to moderate your post-screening discussion tonight, and I was
Great.
so honored that Lars asked me to do it. But I'm even wearing a t-shirt from one of the films that you made with Les, Sprout Wings and Fly, about Tommy Jarrell.
Yes.
That's one of my all-time favorites.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah. How does that feel to know that, work that you made probably when you were in your 20s, 30s is...
I guess 30, about 30-ish. Yeah.
Wow, cool. And to see that still out in the world and influencing people, that must feel pretty great.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
That
cool. Was the first film I edited from scratch.
Really?
Sprout Wings and Fly.
Because I am so well versed in Les Blank and the work that you guys did together, why don't we start for our audience by you telling people who Les Blank was and your relationship with him. And I want to preface this by saying I want to hear your backstory too, but just because we're talking about the film that you made with Les and my t-shirt, how about you tell our audience who Les Blank was?
Well, Les was an amazing documentary filmmaker who we made a lot of films about music. Before I got involved, he had made a bunch of films. Lightning, Blues, Gordon Lightning, Hopkins, Spend It All About Cajuns. When I joined up with him in about 72, the first film we did together was Dry Wood Not Pepper, one about Clifton Chenier.
Yeah, and Zydeco music, right. Love that. He wore a vest in that one that I remember that he would play the washboard.
Well, that was his brother.
Oh, that was his
Cleveland.
brother.
Oh, yeah. No, Clifton played the accordion and his brother played the rubboard.
Oh, okay.
Nobody has ever played the rubboard the way Cleveland did.
Yeah, it was so mesmerizing to watch.
Yeah. Anyway, that was the first film I worked with Les as an apprentice, really. And I ended up working with him for 20 years. We made a bunch of films together, which was fantastic. Mostly music films, but not all. We also did our best-known film. It was called Burden of Dreams.
Yes.
About Werner Herzog shooting his film Fitzcarraldo in the Peruvian Amazon.
In the Peruvian jungle. And I have a signed Burden of Dreams poster hanging right behind my desk that I see every day that Les signed for me when I was an undergraduate at the University of Kansas. I drove down to see him in Norman, Oklahoma, where the university had brought him in to show his work. And because I had commuted 6 hours to be there, the woman who was hosting the event was like, well, do you want to drive him around? And so I got to spend a really incredible 48 hours driving Les around. And he even watched a cut of my senior thesis documentary and gave me some notes.
good.
It was really fantastic. Okay, so we established that Les Blank was this sort of pioneering documentarian who made these really interesting music films where you guys would go and embed with people like LIGHTNIN Hopkins you mentioned, or Tommy Jarrell, who's on the t-shirt I'm wearing, or Werner Herzog while he's making a film in the jungle. But I read that you went to the University of Michigan
Yes.
before you got connected to Les, and Les was in the Bay Area. So how did you come to start working with Les?
He actually was in Hollywood at that point, living in Hollywood. And I was studying social anthropology, and I ended up going to an anthropological film festival at Temple University. I got excited to realize that film and anthropology could go together well. And I felt like I learned more about culture and people in 3 days watching films than I did reading books. And so Les's films were very unique there. No narration, music, and the editing was very unselfconscious and intuitive. The cutting was very poetic. And so his films really stood out to me. And I got my nerve up to talk to him at a party just for a little bit. We ended up corresponding, and about 9 months later, he needed an assistant. So I ended up flying to Hollywood, and suddenly I was not just an assistant, which is what I thought I was going to be doing. I was a sound recordist. Suddenly I had to carry around a 25-pound tape recorder.
Nagra in those days, that's very heavy, reel-to-reel recorder, right?
Yeah. And so our first day of shooting was Black French Mardi Gras in Louisiana. And I was chasing after Les, chasing chickens. And I had to watch out for the cable between us, the sync cable, to not trip over it and to carry the microphone.
And you're thinking, what did I get myself into?
Yeah.
Here, let's cross the street here and find some shade, and then we can
Yeah.
go through this community garden here.
Oh, great. And he was very laconic. He didn't say much. And so I didn't quite know how to deal with him for quite a while, even though we were hanging out together all the time.
So he was like that, because that was my experience with him.
Oh, yeah.
is he just basically didn't talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he would respond if you ask him direct questions, but it was almost like the idea that you would small talk was not
Yeah.
going to happen.
Right. Yeah, so it wasn't easy. But we were in Louisiana for 3.5 months altogether, which is very unusual these days, at least for me on trying to shoot a film.
Oh no, that's very unusual to be embedded or on location
Yeah.
filming for that length of time is.
Yeah, well, we did go to New Orleans too after that, but
Wow.
still being in Louisiana. And that's when I first met Mark Savoie,
Oh right,
Cajun guy.
of Mark and Ann.
Of Mark and
fame.
Ann.
Right. So how would you guys get the funding to go and embed with musicians who aren't famous, who are culturally fascinating and fantastic characters, but it's not like the films you were making were necessarily like commercial. So how would the funding happen?
Well, Les was good at, he actually, in those days, there were so few filmmakers, he could write 3 grants and get 2 of them.
oh, wow.
So he got some National Endowment for the Arts funding for the Louisiana film,
Okay.
Redwood and Hot Pepper. And
Let's stop for 1 second. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this feels very Les Blank and Maureen Gosling to me. Look at
yeah.
this. We are We are in a community garden with
Yeah.
a bench painted with bright, beautiful flowers.
Yeah.
And then there is this is the Festival Beach Food Forest, where looks like the community garden leaves food out. And also there's like a community bulletin board. This feels like something straight out of one of the films that you guys would have made, right?
Yeah. Yeah. This is beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's nice that there's shade because
It
I
is.
need a little.
It is hot. You are used to the Pacific Northwest,
Yeah.
and yeah, we are still. We're here in Central Texas, where it's summer most of the year.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have a fantastic outfit on too, by the
Oh.
way.
Oh, thanks.
You know, one of the things that I so admire about the work that you guys made is like is how colorful and playful and fun
Yeah.
the films are,
Yeah.
and it really transmitted how it must have felt to be at those house parties and
Yes.
in those kitchens where the people are cooking, and in the dance halls. Like in heaven there is no beer, that's why we drink it here. The joy of all
Yeah.
the dancers, and it just radiates off the screen. So
Mhm.
can you talk a little bit about like how you guys achieved that tone, that feeling?
Well, I mean, we just were there and did not impose ourselves on people. Les never, he was not one of those aggressive TV guys that goes in and kind of tells everybody what to do. And, you know, we just really were there. And Les was always looking for what he called the golden moments. And those were the moments of human expression. You know, anytime that people were interacting with each other, non-verbally, you could tell what was going on, and he would capture that. He would look for that. And so part of it was his eye. And then the editing, you cut out anything that's not natural. You
Okay.
get rid of the superficial, the self-conscious stuff.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So the
And there's bound to be that. You know, people get self-conscious in front of the camera.
right.
And, you know, a whole interview might get cut out because the person was just self-conscious all the time. Because we were always looking for the most authentic expression of the people we were with. And, you know, it was love.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been so fortunate to make films about people that I care about, or that I fall in love with them when I'm making the film.
Yeah.
You know, like Barbara Dane.
Right.
She was like a second mother almost, or an auntie.
I wanted to build up to ask you about that.
Sure.
How you, because your new film, The 9 Lives of Barbara Dane, that you're here to show at Austin Film Society, feels like a culmination of that work that I know so well that you did with Les.
Uh-huh.
And it's very interesting because in the film, you're celebrating Barbara Dane, who is somebody that I was not aware of, and I can't believe I didn't know her name.
Right.
But she is going on tour in her late 80s, early 90s when you film with her, and it feels like a culmination of her whole artistic life sort of coming to be on screen. And so it was interesting that it almost felt like that was your culmination as a director and her culmination as a subject. Did you see it that way?
Yes, yes. And the one thing that's an important point, very interesting, is that with Les, we never did overtly political films, even though the films, you could say, had messages that were very maybe progressive, or, you know, just the way we were relating to people.
Yeah, because you were filming people who were, not a lot of people were probably going into Clifton Cheniere's house, or
Right.
or Lightning Hopkins' home, or Mance
Right.
Lipscomb's farm. You know,
Right.
you guys were really going there and embedding with people.
Yeah, and what it does, those films, because they don't have a time mark for what's going on in the country, they sort of have transcended time, because they're experiential rather than, you know, historical or factual or whatever.
Oh, that's such a great way to say it. They're
Yeah.
experiential. I'd never quite thought of it that way, and that's so on the money because you really do feel like you're there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with the Barbara film, I in the early 2000s, I started working with this guy named Jed Reif, and he was a social justice and political filmmaker. The first film I edited for him was called Waiting to Inhale, about medical marijuana.
Oh, I saw that in your filmography. Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, so with him, I started to do much more political, overtly political stuff,
Okay.
you know, in social justice work. So with the Barbara Dane film, that influence is there as well.
Sure.
And I mean, I hope that it's sort of a combination of the good stuff from working with Les and the good stuff with working with Jed.
Oh.
Plus my own interest in promoting women,
Right.
women's stories.
Right.
And the first film I directed with this other woman, Ellen Osborne, was on these women in southern Oaxaca, the Zapotecs of Juchitán, Oaxaca, who have a reputation of being a matriarch.
Oh.
And so
wow.
that was a very significant film for me.
So let's talk about the transition from being Les's sound recordist and editor to you directing your first film. How did that come about?
Well, we ended up working together for 20 years, Les and I. And I don't know at what point I started to feel like I'm not moving up the ladder in this job. He was sort of slowing down himself a bit. And I mean, whenever I would always get my interest up again, whenever the new film idea would come out. Then I would say, oh, I have to do this.
Bike rider coming right here, Maureen.
I'm going to have to do this, even though I was sort of feeling ready to move on a little bit, but I also didn't know how to move on. You know, I mean, we did incredible stuff, and
Yeah.
and Les was full of surprises all the time, and so, you know, and he was my family, and the people around him were my family. So
Right. Give me an if you would, give me an example of how he would come up with an idea that would get you excited, that felt like a surprise.
well, I mean, Gap Tooth Women. I mean,
I love that one. It's so good.
I mean, that's just too fun.
So
Right.
for people who are listening who don't know what that is, how would you describe Gap Tooth Women? And why don't we go sit in this bench right here? Look how fantastic this looks.
Yeah.
Look at this. Wow. Maybe not the prettiest right in front of us, but that section over there is pretty nice. Okay, so Gap Tooth Women. So for those people who are listening who may not have seen that film, tell people what Gap Tooth Women was about.
Well, it was about women who had spaces between their teeth. And Les had always, he had admitted at a certain point that he'd always been fascinated by Gatato's women. That was his, from the Wives of Bath.
Yeah, and the Canterbury Tales.
Canterbury Tales.
Right.
And
yes.
he always had this one question: are they as even more sexualized than other women if you have gap in your teeth? He was curious about that.
Yeah.
And so, you know,
and that comes from Chaucer. I remember that part in the
Yeah.
Canterbury Tales. Yeah, where women with a gap are supposed to be a little more
lusty or
adventurous and
Right.
brassy. Yeah.
yeah. So I think she was his girlfriend at the time. They weren't married yet. Or Simon. She was a little nervous about trying to make a film about Gap Tooth women and Les's attitude about it. And so she and our assistant Susan Kell and I sort of got together and ganged up on Les and said, you know what, this can really be a film about women's self-image rather than just some fantasy of some guy, right?
He is lucky to have had you guys, because yes, that could have backfired. Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, so Susan especially was fantastic interviewing the woman. And we, you know, did a casting call and found all these wonderful people and then filmed a bunch of them. And then, usually Les's films, we didn't do very many interviews.
Right.
But this one was pure interview.
Yeah.
But with stuff in between, of course, images of the women when they were little, funny songs, mythology. And
I remember murals. There's you guys found some murals that I think was...
Right. There was one of the women was a muralist.
Yeah.
And so beautiful images. And one of them was a truck driver, and one of them was a belly dancer and a cartoon artist. And so all of that's in there. It's a half-hour film, but it's very charming.
It really is.
Totally charming.
Well, and that's another interesting thing. The lengths of those movies are so interesting because they're not commercial by any stretch. They weren't, the standard 56-40 hour for PBS. They were oftentimes 40 minutes long.
Right.
So they're longer than short films, but shorter than feature films.
Yeah, although we did do some long ones. But anyway, the length that they're supposed to be is how we always said.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
But doesn't that by nature make it so that the distribution is harder, so that you guys would have to go around and physically show the movies? You'd almost have to tour with them?
Well, Les was one of the original DIY guys in the 70s. He realized that nobody knew how to distribute his films. He tried with regular distributors, educational distributors. They didn't know what to do with Lightning Hopkins.
Right.
He would get a $40 royalty at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So he said, I guess I'm just going to have to do this myself. And he did. And it really worked. I mean, it took time to build up his mailing list, but it's still in good shape now.
Yeah.
I mean, after all these years, even though we also are a Criterion collection, and he was the first filmmaker to put films on VHS when VHS was the thing.
I remember I sent off for some of those and bought them in the mail from Flower Films. Okay, so you do that with Les. You started as an assistant. You quickly become the sound recordist. Then you become his editor, and you guys worked together for 20 years, you said?
Right. Wow. And so I was also co-filmmaker.
Yes.
And that doesn't always get acknowledged as maybe sort of like a co-director.
Yeah, right.
And so it's been tricky with Burden of Dreams, even though it's a film by Les Blank with Maureen Gosling. The with Maureen Gosling often gets left off. So
that's tough.
Yeah.
And film history is full of those types of partnerships. I'm thinking about Scorsese with his longtime editor Thelma Shoemaker, and even here in Austin, Rick Linklater and Sandra Adair, have worked together their whole careers, and it's hard to imagine one without the other. But it is also hard not to notice that it's the men who get who are the ones whose names we know.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? Or is that...
Well, it's been a little challenging, shall we say.
Yeah.
I mean, I always felt like I got the credit that I wanted on the film itself, because I would lobby for that with him. But then that isn't necessarily what gets remembered or acknowledged or whatever.
Right.
Like Gap-Toothed Women was made by Les Blank, Maureen Gosling, Chris Simon, and Susan Kell. And Chulas Fronteras, for Del Medio Corazon, was made by Chris Rockowitz, Maureen Gosling, Les Blank, and Guillermo Hernandez.
Right.
So anyway, one could have a long discussion just on that.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm not digging for dirt just so much as wondering how that informed your directing and your choice to go out on your own. And
yeah. I mean, that was maybe part of it.
Yeah.
Sure. And then I started off with another woman directing Los Angeles Fire, which is the one in Mexico, and she kind of bailed on me, even though she started it.
Oh no.
And she kind of bailed because she was so depressed by how hard the story's money. And I thought, oh my God, how can I do this by myself?
Right.
And I sort of did, and finished it, and I said, well, I guess I can call it that it's my film.
Yeah.
But I always give her credit, Ellen Osborne, for being co-director with me. And when we shot the film, it was totally equal. And,
Right.
it's her idea originally. But it opened this whole chapter for me in my life. It's, part of my identity.
Right.
And I really took it to heart. And hopefully I'm working on a restoration on that film.
Oh,
so maybe
cool.
we'll be able to get it down here.
Yeah, that's
Blossoms
great.
of Fire.
Oh,
yeah,
love it.
It's really a fun film too.
It sounds like you are like the consummate collaborator. Like that was kind of your role with Les, and then I apologize, I haven't seen Blossoms of Fire, but it sounds like you started as a collaborator that then became the director. Like, are you more comfortable in some ways in the sort of collaborator team mode than?
Yeah, and I think most films are teamwork, and they don't necessarily get acknowledged as that.
Right.
Because there's a lot of work, and people have their different strengths. Like Ellen was great she didn't mind making plane reservations, and doing budgets, which I hate.
Right.
And I went and did the research. I read the books and took the notes.
Yeah.
And Jed he's the budget guy, plus he's sort of the overview guy and the one that makes sure we're covering X and sometimes he directs his films and then I edit his films. But
I was going to say,
producer.
You sound like a director. You're doing the creative work and they are doing the planning, which is the producer's role.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of our audience who haven't seen the film, tell us about the 9 Lives of Barbara Dane.
Well, I knew who Barbara Dane was because she was a good friend of Chris Strachowitz.
Okay.
Our Huli Records, who was my good friend for many, many years.
And Chris and Les shared an office, is that right? For
they shared
a long time?
Office in the same building.
In the same building, okay.
Down Home Music, Our Huli Records.
Yeah.
Flower Films, Les Plank Films.
And a lot of those artists that you guys made films about were on our Huli label, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Chris, every year, had 2 parties. One, 4th of July, which was 2 days away from his birthday, so it was celebrating his birthday and Uncle Sam, and then Christmas.
Okay.
And Barbara Dane used to come to all parties, and she always jammed with the blues musicians that were there, because there were all these musicians that would come to the party and just jam with each other. And she was really cool to listen to, and I was a little intimidated by her because she was sort of, tough woman, but nice and friendly. But I didn't really know anything about her. I just liked her singing and her music. And then her daughter was looking for somebody to cut a promo for her new album that she did when she turned 89 years old.
That's fantastic.
And so when I edited this little promo piece, and I was like, oh my God, she worked with Louis Armstrong. Oh my God, she was mentored by Pete Seeger. Oh my God. All this stuff was like,
Muddy
oh my
Waters,
God.
Willie Dixon. Like, I just couldn't believe all the names that were in there.
And working with Jane Fonda
and Bob Dylan. And she was like that Woody Allen movie, Zealot, where she was just like involved in every movement of her time.
She was, and she wasn't self-promoting.
Right.
And so that's why we probably don't know about her very much.
This sounds familiar, Maureen.
Yeah. And that's kind of why you make these films. It's like, people say, well, I don't know who that is. She's not a celebrity, so, we don't want you in our film festival, which has happened too many times. But the whole point is that you need to know about her. And it's like filling in women's history.
Yeah.
American women's history. So anyway, she had a CD release event at Yoshi's Jazz Club in Oakland. And it was sort of like, we probably should film this. Maybe this will be her last concert, she's 89 years old, for God's sake.
Right.
Well, Jed got involved because her daughter had been looking for somebody to direct the film about her for years. And I was like, I don't know if I could do this by myself. And as soon as Jed got interested, it was like, okay, I can do this. And I'll be the director and he can be the producer.
Right.
And I'll have a film part.
I've got somebody to make the budgets and the plan reservations.
Yeah. And he was excited and he got totally turned on to her.
Yep.
So we shot the Yoshi's in Oakland, and that was the beginning of the film.
Wow.
So it was sort of like, okay, here we go,
Yeah.
you know.
Little
And
did
then-
you know that she would be touring, what, 5 years later even? Like, right?
Well,
She-
more like over the next 2 years.
2 years,
2.5
okay,
years.
okay.
Yeah, anyway, one of my wonderful funders ended up giving us enough money that we could go to Cuba with her and her daughter and wait for the plane to go over.
Oh, consummate professional, that's right.
Uh-huh.
Sound.
Oh, it's a
sound
helicopter.
engineer.
Yeah. Anyway, Barbara's son lives in Cuba. And he's lived there since he was 14 years old. She took him there. She went back home, told her son about it. He says, I know this music school you could go to. What do you think? Would you like to go? And he was 14.
14.
And he actually,
That's mind-blowing, yeah.
he was sort of like, he'd already done the hippie thing, even though he was 14, right? Because he was
Right.
hanging out with his parents who were pretty,
Steeped in the hippie thing.
yeah, and his sister who was a total, and so he said, let's do something different. And so he ended up going, and that's when she dropped him off and left him.
Okay.
And he didn't know Spanish. And she left her kid in
he's
Cuba for a year, right?
14, yeah. And then I loved how it evolves from there, which of course he gets a girlfriend
Right.
and decides to stay
Right.
in Cuba. And the photos of he and his then wife sort of growing up in Cuba are just amazing.
Yeah.
Like, what a cool mom, and also what an unbelievable leap of faith to leave your child essentially with Fidel Castro.
Right. Yeah. So he fell in love with the place, and his birth name was Paul, named after Paul Robeson.
Okay.
But his father's name was Menendez because his father was half Spanish. And so when he went to Cuba, he became Pablo Menendez. And he became a band leader of a band called Mezcla, which means mixture. And he always believed in, he had all the progressive ideas in his mom and working with people of different backgrounds. And so he always has Black people in his bands and Asian people in his bands,
What an amazing movie. So, okay, so you meet Barbara Dane, you realize she's going on this tour at 89, you have to film it.
Mm-hmm.
You film that first concert, and then where do you go from there? Like, how do you raise the funding? How do you conceive of where the story needs to go?
Well, we just started kind of, we knew we needed to interview her and some of the people around her. So we did that. And her daughter was in charge of the Barbara Dane Legacy Project and the Barbara Dane Archive. And so she has an incredible collection that she started when she was probably in her teens of photographs and tapes and posters and letters and recording. I mean, just this incredible archive of stuff that we had access to. Most of the time that she was like on TV, like she was with Louis Armstrong on a show, and she had her own shows that she was on. She was with folk musicians, she was blues musicians, and she was interviewed at LA at the Ash Grove Coffee House,
Yes.
talking about beatniks and
Yes.
how they're sort of not all there.
Right.
It was so cute.
It was so cute. And then she ended up in like an Alfred Hitchcock Presents. And
Right.
Yeah, she skipped like a stone through all these amazing cultural moments.
Mhm.
And it was one of those things that after watching the film, I was inspired and also couldn't believe that I had never heard her name before.
Right. Yeah. And she got the Chambers Brothers on the road.
Oh, who deserve their own documentary. Those guys
Yeah.
are incredible characters.
Yeah. And they remained friends of hers all their lives. And sadly, we lost two of the guys that we filmed.
Oh.
Only one of the brothers is left, this amazing guy, Willie
Yeah.
Chambers. He's hippest guy
Yeah.
ever. So charming and wonderful, and got to hang out with them when they were still alive.
Wow.
And filmed them performing with her, and they give her credit for jumpstarting her career
Amazing.
way back in the 60s. And we did interview Jane Fonda about her.
Yes. God, who looks phenomenal. Couldn't believe it. You lit her so well, and her interview is just so pretty.
Yeah. And she really was mentored by Barbara and Irwin.
Interesting.
politically.
Yeah, she says that. Yeah, that she was intimidated by Barbara and how much it meant to her to have a strong woman who was basically kind of showing her how to be an activist.
Right.
Yeah.
And she stayed with Barbara Irwin in New York sometimes, and
Wow.
Barbara's got letters from her that she wrote to them.
Incredible.
Yeah, so
Oh, man.
Jane Fonda is part of the reason she's doing what she's doing now is Barbara Dane's influence. So it's kind of interesting.
Well, what do you think? Should we walk back? Should we stroll
I guess
back
we
the
can
way
sort of walk back.
the way we did? I know it's so nice to.
Yeah.
Well, let's get one more shot of our view.
Oh,
here.
sure.
Do you want to? Here, you do the honors as director. You shoot what looks interesting to you. So, what did you learn from spending the time that you did with Barbara Dane?
Well, how inspiring it can be to, well, a biggie is the richness of what our elders have in their lives and what they have to say.
Yes.
And it's good to talk to them and learn from them and get insight from them. And it's also possible to be young at heart and an activist till the day you die, which she was. She did medical aid in dying, which is legal in California.
Wow, she did.
So she chose the day she would die and took a potion and was there and had her family around her. And
Wow.
yeah, illegal in California, which is can be really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, she really hung in there for the longest time, partly because for her daughter, who was also dealing with terminal cancer.
Oh, no.
Nina was our executive producer, incredible person, and absolute supporter of her mother, absolute best friend of her mother. They were so close. And she had these goals with the Barbara Dane Legacy Project to put the concerts on, get her mom's book out, get a film made, and she did all of it.
Wow.
Barbara did her book. It's called This Bell Still Rings, My Life of Defiance in Song. And Nina helped her do that. If you like the film, you get all the juicy details when you read Barbara's book. And then just getting the archive, trying to get the archive placed somewhere. That still has yet to happen. But it's an incredible archive.
Yeah.
And sadly, Nina just passed away literally about 2 months ago.
Oh, no.
Yeah. At about age 67. She was also, besides being her mother's best friend and promoter, she was a promoter of flamenco concerts.
Yes. Let's go this way. That was one of my main takeaways from the film, was that she was such an inspiring presence, and the influence that she had on her children's lives was so interesting to observe, because they all became these like pioneering artistic people that it was really beautiful to see that direct, like, sort of transfer of creative power.
Yeah. Yep. So true.
Well, so you make this beautiful portrait of an artist looking back on their career. Now that you're 75 and you're still working and making work, but you're also showing films and looking back on your career to some point. How do you think about your career at this point?
Well, I'm slowing down a bit, taking on other big films to edit, and I'm trying to get all my own films into good shape and make sure that they have some distribution too. It's like Blossoms of Fire has been out of distribution for quite a long time. I'm trying to get my films in shape, and I'm open to editing shorts.
Oh, okay.
So I've edited, there's this wonderful group in the Bay Area called Los Sensoles, and they're a Mexican-American cultural organization that is absolutely prolific. They teach their kids in their classes how to play musical instruments and perform.
Oh,
and then they have their own group called Los Sensoles. And they're, good buds with Taj Mahal and David Hidalgo from Los Lobos and Linda Ronstadt and Jackson Browne. And so I recently edited a short for them where Taj Mahal and David Hidalgo are visiting their center.
Oh, cool.
And so they perform, talk to the kids, and the kids perform, and they perform with the kids.
Wow.
So
how awesome. So basically you're still working. You're as vibrant as ever and still making films about musicians and communities that are inspirational, that matter to you. That's awesome.
Well, and a big job that I have right now is getting this film out in the world.
Right.
And we feel like it's a really important time for this film because Barbara is very inspirational for anyone who is an activist right now, wondering, how can I do this? I'm too tired. This is too hard. I give up. Too many rough things going on in the world. I can't do it. She kept going and going and going. Activists right now might be feeling tired, depressed. I have to give up. This is too hard. Barbara kept doing it no matter what. I mean, you saw her marching in union rallies in Detroit when she was 18, and then being in the civil rights movement, and then being in the feminist movement, and then working with GIs, and then, and she just kept going.
Right.
And, even when she was sitting in her lazy boy chair and couldn't even move, she would turn on any news that was about, Palestinian march. She was totally up to date on everything. And anyway, just someone who's inspiring for now. And she's kind of a badass. She's not like this, prim and proper little old lady. She's a tough cookie.
Yes, absolutely.
It's fun, funny, and got great stories. And so we also are hoping that young people will get a kick out of her and realize what some of these old folks have to say. And how inspiring they are and how cool they are.
Well, I feel that same way about you and the work that you've made. I'm sincere. Watching those Les Blanc films for me as an undergraduate at the University of Kansas, not knowing another documentary filmmaker, just filled me full of hope and inspiration and joy and just a belief that that medium was important and was something that I wanted to spend my life making. So I thank you for that. And I also am thrilled that you're still out there introducing audiences to inspiring people that we didn't know about. So we're coming up on your Airbnb here. So I wanted to ask you, this is a podcast specifically about documentary filmmaking, and we hope that young directors listen to this and get inspired the way I was just saying that your films have done for me. And so I wonder if you would just talk a little bit about why documentaries matter, why you have spent your life creating them.
Yeah, well, there's so many stories that haven't been told, especially in mass media. And documentary filmmakers really are doing it. Pretty incredible. I mean, there's some incredible documentaries out there. There's some terrible ones too, mind you, that you have to wade through. But the one thing, especially now that there's fewer newspapers, the media has become more homogenized and corporatized, and the documentary filmmakers really are filling in the gap of investigative journalism in so many cases. It takes time to do a documentary. You know, when they're good, the director really and the team really do their homework. And so the good ones are very powerful, very important. And of course, right now, with all the funding being taken away from Corporation for Public Broadcasting and all these other places, it's going to be harder. But the medium is also more democratized because you can make a video on your cell phone.
Right.
A decent film, you know.
I mean, look what we're doing now. Like this is good enough quality that you could show this in a movie theater and it would work.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's kind of a mixed bag right now.
Yeah.
There's more documentary filmmakers, there's better ones, and now the funding's drying up.
Right.
And so we have to be very creative. And it's really hard, and we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, PBS actually, surprisingly, is probably going to survive because it wasn't just dependent on CPB funding.
Right.
They had their own local sources and resources. So that's really helpful when it's diversified.
Right.
Diversification is like an important concept to get.
Exactly. Exactly.
In just about every part of your life.
Yes.
If you think that way, you're going to do a lot better.
Yeah. That's good advice.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get the chance to cover?
Oh, I don't know. I guess keep watch for Women's History Month next year.
Here, Maureen, actually stop right there and back up just a little bit if you would.
Oh, yeah.
This bush, if you would stand right here, let me just get a shot of you.
Sure.
This feels very apropos for maybe one of our final moments here together. Again, the colors and the focusing on the flowers, and that was something that you and Les did so well in your film. So this is such a treat. Oh, I was asking if there's anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get the chance to discuss.
Oh, they're showing the film in different cities right now.
Okay.
And like we have something set up in Chicago for October 5th. We've got Ashland, Oregon on the 11th of October, Oakland, November 5th. And we're working on theaters in DC, Albuquerque, Santa Fe, Salt Lake, Portland, a bunch of other places.
Awesome. So it's, in a way, it's back to your roots. It's how you and Les used to do it in the old days.
Right. And the other thing that we're trying to do is, when possible, live music with a concert, with a film.
Yeah.
And we've had that so far. We're calling it Women's Rebel Voices. And we're trying to find younger women singers who have social change content in their lyrics.
Right.
To be part of the screening, to bring up the contemporary connection between Barbara Dane and the singer and inspiration for what's going on now.
So is there a website or somewhere people can follow your progress?
Yes, barbadanefilm.com.
Well, I think with that, people will be able to find you. And it's a beautiful film. And I, again, just thank you so much for making such inspirational, colorful, poetic, and joyful work and putting that out in the world, because it definitely makes ripples, and it inspired me for sure. I'm so grateful to you for doing that. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be in Austin. I lived here for a few years in the 70s.
You did?
I did.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What brought you to Austin? Why were you living here?
Well, that's a whole other story.
Because that probably would have been when you were working with Les, right?
Yeah, we did the Leon Russell film.
Oh, yes.
Poem is a Naked Person.
Yes.
And Leon had all these folks from Austin working for him. And Jim Franklin
Yep. Oh, the great
Armadillo artist was painting Leon's swimming pool.
Right.
And so he would invite us down to Austin to visit. So we came down here a couple times. And when we finished Leon film, I didn't know where I was going to go. I was not going with Les because he was going with his girlfriend to Hollywood. And I said, Austin, how about Austin?
Yeah.
I know all these people. I met all these people already. And I came down here and felt like at home immediately.
And so you would have been hanging out at the Armadillo?
Yes.
Probably
So
seeing
Creek
Willie.
Saloon.
You see Willie play?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
All those guys.
That's the golden
It was the
time to be
golden
in Austin.
time. It was the Haight-Ashbury of Austin.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a
Wow.
great time.
Oh, incredible.
Yeah.
That's really fan. I'm so glad you got to experience that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever shoot any footage of any of that?
No, it was before I was doing things like that.
Yeah.
People were not documenting the way that they do now.
Right. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. It feels weird now, you know. It's like, why didn't I take pictures of that experience?
Well, that's your documentary brain. That's the blessing and the curse of being a filmmaker, right? Is you want to document everything.
Yeah.
Not always just experience it. So, well, I'm so glad that we got to have this experience. So, thank you again, Maureen. This is a real treat.
You bet. Well, thank you.
Okay, that was Maureen Gosling. Man, I loved every second of that. And I particularly loved how at the end she was framed by flowers, and it felt like that was an extension of the movies that she and Les made together. And that was just a treat for me. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you got something out of it. I sure did. Keith, you were missed. I will see you next week. Hope you had a great trip to LA. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. And stay tuned next week for our friend, documentary producer Hillary Pierce, who's joining us for a doc walk.
Doc Walks is created, produced, and edited by my friend Ben Steinbauer of The Bear.
Hello. And my friend Keith Maitland of Go Valley.
Thanks for tuning in.
Follow us at Doc Walks Pod on Instagram, X, and YouTube.